Demand for home office space.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Well, they tried and they tried, but couldn't get through. It turned out to be a disastrous first day for booking COVID-19 vaccinations.
Tonight, the BC government is saying sorry and blaming TELUS for the phone system's failure to book appointments for many seniors.
And as Tanya Fletcher reports, the phone company itself is accepting responsibility for what happened at all call centers in all health authorities, but especially Vancouver Coastal.
Please hang up and try your call again at a later time.
Adarita Guerrero is among the scores of unlucky people hitting a wall with Vancouver Coastal Health. She's now on day 2 of trying to book a vaccination appointment for her 89-year-old father.
7 a.m. through to 7 p.m., close to 200 calls, and I just couldn't get through.
With respect to yesterday and the call center, profoundly disappointed, take full responsibility for that.
The Premier saying the buck ultimately stops with the province, an acknowledgement of the system's disastrous debut. In total, almost 15,000 appointments were booked province-wide on day 1. Fraser Health was way out ahead with nearly 9,000 bookings, largely because it was the only health authority to offer online registration. Interior Health was next with nearly 2,500. Vancouver Island was similar, booking about 2,400 appointments. Northern Health came in at just over 1,000, and Vancouver Coastal was just a fraction of that, only 369 appointments during the 12 hours the phone lines were open. The main reason is that every other health authority in BC had built-in backup support. Vancouver Coastal Health, though, did not. That's because it's the only region in the province without its own call centre.
We've never had the need for that, and therefore we didn't actually have a platform to pivot to try and take up the slack with the problems that TELUS was experiencing yesterday.
Still, BC's health minister says the blame lies with TELUS because the company had assured them it would be fine.
How often we asked about whether staffing was in place, how many suggestions and offers we had to supplement that if TELUS needed it. We were repeatedly told as late as 9 o'clock Sunday night that they had the situation in hand, and they did not.
In a statement, TELUS apologized, saying, quote, "Our team has been working around the clock to scale up capacity and respond to the unprecedented demand. By this afternoon, we'll have more than 250 agents taking calls and hundreds more being added in real time." It also vowed that all eligible British Columbians will be able to book their vaccine in the time frame set out by the province, capping off a day filled with finger-pointing, apologies and promises. Yet it does little to curb the criticism.
Why is this such a bumbling effort?
Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
And the first day of BC's vaccination drive for the general population may have had its fair share of bumps in the road.
But as Justin McElroy reports tonight, it's just one of many issues the province will face as it tries to vaccinate our large and sometimes vulnerable senior population.
Their name is Seniors Serving Seniors, but when it comes to the vaccine, the Victoria-based organization can't.
How can we help? We have volunteers and we have staff members who are dedicated to helping seniors living in the community, and we would appreciate instructions on how to help.
Organizations have been told they can help with booking vaccinations, but there are approximately 230,000 British Columbians over the age of 80. It's the highest percentage in Western Canada, and many people have a lot of questions that aren't necessarily getting answered by the government.
I'm hearing a lot of anxiety and frustration. This morning it was a 91-year-old woman who has diabetes and can't really walk or get about, and she's very concerned, and as well for her husband who's in a wheelchair. So it's a little bit hard for us in a way answering the phone because we don't have much more information.
There are many challenges with BC's first stage of its mass vaccination program, but 2 of them are connecting with people who have language barriers or mobility issues, a number of whom live in Chinatown or the downtown east side.
什么时候能解封？谁通知他们？
I'm one of the fortunate one, but like a lot of seniors who doesn't speak English or like with a little bit older than me, they won't able to access of this information.
Wang Zhao is only in her 70s, but was able to get vaccinated early because of a chronic disease. But she says she only learned about her opportunities through informal conversations on WeChat that connected her to a specialist.
打了以后会有什么反应？他们还是有顾虑的。
Right. Yes, there's still a lot of concern in the community, especially for those seniors who doesn't know how to use their phone or like how to use the internet. They want to know more about the side effects.
The province is launching its call centers, its mass clinics, and its mobile clinics for seniors who can't leave their home, all at the same time. Some believe that's bound to cause hiccups.
I would expect issues in the first couple of weeks, right? We are setting up processes now, and so I would expect that. What I would really want to know and want to see, which I will, is how they sort through these so that, as you say correctly, when we get into April, we really don't have a lot of time to be making mistakes.
A hope that the call center issues of Monday are just a bump in the road and not a harbinger of the challenges to come. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
Another 2 people have died from COVID-19 in BC as our province approaches 1,400 total deaths. There are 550 new cases, with Metro Vancouver showing no sign of getting transmission levels to safe levels. Active cases are up yet again, now just under 4,900. And for the first time, the COVID-19 variant from Brazil has been identified in BC. 249 people are in hospital. That's a slight increase from yesterday. 68 of them are in critical or intensive care.
And as we know, BC's top doctor is prioritizing age as our province rolls out the mass vaccination plan.
But some areas of the province are now going to vaccinate their entire communities in one fell swoop to try to stop the spread of the virus. Dan Burrett joins us live with more. Dan, where is this happening and why?
The largest community so far is Prince Rupert. That's at least 12,000 people, including about 5,000 Indigenous people. The North Coast city had the second highest rate of COVID infection in all of BC last month. Northern Health says Prince Rupert has a high COVID infection and positivity rate, and it hasn't dropped like elsewhere. So starting this Friday, people in Prince Rupert and in nearby Port Edward who are 65 to 90 years of age and older will be able to call a dedicated phone number to book a COVID vaccine appointment. Those younger will be able to book in the days ahead, and if it's not your turn, you're not to call. Clinics will run from March 15th to April 1st. Officials say they will share that phone number shortly. Other Northern Health communities like Dease Lake and Fort Nelson are also taking the community approach. It's also happening on and around Vancouver Island in almost 30 small towns and cities with fewer than 4,000 people. That includes Tofino and Ucluelet, Port Hardy, Hornby Island, and Saturna Island, among others. Also included is Gold River in central Vancouver Island. Encouraging news there for people of all ages.
I was looking at the end of summer, probably before I was going to be vaccinated. You know, I'm only 25, so I'm in that low group, which makes total sense to me. But, you know, if there's an opportunity to be vaccinated here with the rest of the community, that's 100% what I'll do.
Gold River's mayor says they could be done vaccinating their community by April 12th. He calls that exciting. Anita, Mike.
Dan Burrett live for us tonight. Thanks, Dan. Well, 1 year ago today, we learned COVID-19 had claimed its first victim in Canada.
That first death was a resident in long-term care in North Vancouver.
In the months that followed, the virus would take the lives of hundreds more in this province. Isabel Regam takes a look back.
A year ago, he became sick with COVID. 2 weeks later, he died.
Serenading her father from outside his Vancouver care home. Samantha Moncton says this was her way of coping with the end of in-person visits when her dad was diagnosed with COVID-19.
And at least I knew that the one thing that my dad brought to us in our lives was music. So I knew I could bring it back to him.
This would turn out to be one of the last tunes she played for the 78-year-old. On April 2nd, Gary Moncton would take his final breath and become one of BC's early victims in the pandemic.
We didn't really think that it would cause his death because nobody really understood how vicious it was at that point.
Just 3 weeks before, BC recorded Canada's first COVID-related death.
He was a man in his 80s, and he had a number of underlying health conditions, unfortunately.
That man was a resident here at Lynn Valley Care Centre. His identity is still unknown publicly, but his death marked a milestone. A year later, Dr. Bonnie Henry reflects on what became a turning point.
When it hit a long-term care home here in BC, I had this really overwhelming sense of dread, in a sense, because I knew we were going to be in for a tough time.
That was a period of great intensity.
BC's health minister also spoke at that conference March 9th, just inches away from Dr. Bonnie Henry with no masks in sight. While things have changed drastically since then, this would only be the start of a daily death toll.
We learn if people have passed away, and that if so, how many, is the most difficult piece of news to get every day.
Since that first death last March, nearly 1,400 British Columbians have died of the virus. While vaccines bring relief, some experts worry a third wave is inevitable, and with that would likely come more deaths.
We forget the human toll it's taking on people like myself.
Samantha Moncton is bracing herself for a painful one-year anniversary in a few weeks. Hers is one of the first of many painful anniversaries to come. Isabel Regem, CBC News, Vancouver.
Hard to believe a year ago. Now, we want to tell you that CBC British Columbia is going to be taking your questions about the vaccines and our province's rollout plans straight to provincial officials. We're hosting a virtual town hall tomorrow night. Dr. Bonnie Henry, Health Minister Adrian Dix, and other experts and officials will be on hand to answer your questions live. Our Shot will be on TV, CBC Gem, online, and on CBC Radio. It's hosted by Stephen Quinn and Anita. Find details at cbc.ca/OurShot, and you can send your questions to bcasks@cbc.ca.
A man was killed overnight in Burnaby when he was crushed by the car he was trying to steal from.
You know, there were some tools that were there. It appears as he wasn't able to start whatever it was he was trying to get, so I can't say for certain. I think there's a lot of speculation that it's a catalytic converter because of the cost of those right now.
A passerby called RCMP just after 3 in the morning after finding the man under the car. The man's family has been notified about his death, and police aren't releasing his identity.
Some financial relief tonight for BC's hard-hit regional transportation sector.
With respect to regional airports that provide medical evacuations and other important essential services to people in rural and remote parts of BC, we're providing $16.5 million in operating grants so we can maintain terminals, runways, and other operations at these critical pieces of infrastructure.
Just over $10 million will go toward intercity bus operators to restart key Vancouver Island routes. Grant applications are now open, and payouts will start as early as next month. The $27 million program will help operators across the province resume essential transportation services.
Well, 2 U.S. senators have introduced a bill to Congress that would allow foreign-flagged cruise ships to sail to Alaska without having to stop in Canada. The 2 senators from Alaska hope the legislation will circumvent Canada's current ban on cruise ships. U.S. maritime law currently requires ships to stop at a foreign port. It requires ships en route to Alaska to dock in Vancouver or Victoria. But Canada has banned cruise ships for at least a year, which means when sailings resume, operators would be unable to legally offer cruises to Alaska due to U.S. laws.
Johanna Wagstaff continues to be on assignment this week, but Nick Czernkovich is here just looking at those pictures of the cruise ships, the sunrise, the sunset. We're going to be seeing, I know we see them, but I mean, are we going to be seeing them?
Yeah, I think we will this week. Sunny days ahead. We still got a little bit of cloud cover to deal with. And we've also got some warm temperatures in the forecast as we head through the next few days. So all in all, some pretty good weather as we head through the rest of the week. Today hitting 11 degrees. We're sitting at 7 right now. And it actually hit 11, then it dropped, and then it went back up to 11. It all depends on which way the winds are blowing. As they shift more to sort of a westerly direction off the water, their temperatures start to drop. drop. That's where we're sitting at this hour. Now, some cloud cover out there right now. Again, the risk of a few isolated spotty showers through tonight. What I want to bring to your attention, though, is through tomorrow morning, there is the risk for some patchy fog, especially out towards, say, Abbotsford, Langley, even up toward Richmond. I think maybe in Vancouver we're going to see it. That should dissipate, though, through the morning hours. But that being said, watch for that if you're out early on. Then again, spotty showers or maybe some mixed precipitation in the higher elevations. But for Vancouver, I'm calling for generally just dry weather and mix of sun and cloud to mostly cloudy skies at times. Forecast-wise, as we head through the next 24, this is what it looks like. 1 degree as we head through tonight. Again, watch for the risk of fog patches tomorrow morning. 9 tomorrow, and there are more double digits in the forecast. Your full 5-day coming up in a bit.
Double digits. We love them. Thanks, Nick.
Matt.
Well, if your work from home office at the kitchen or coffee table is wearing you down, rest assured you're not alone.
That's why business is booming for a BC builder. The Indigenous-owned Moss Designs saw its business plummet when the pandemic hit.
So they took their model and downscaled it. Take a look.
And as you can see, the panels just all kind of click together. Oh, business has been quite good in the backyard offices. We've had a lot of interest as people are moving out of their offices and into their houses. Hello, I'm Brian, and when we're not building on reserve, we're building these Zen dens. Moss Design was started as a socioeconomic program to help get the members of the community to help build the houses together. So we've designed the houses and did all the structure work and the engineering work. So then we employ members of the community to help build the houses. That provides sweat equity and pride and ownership. And then as the pandemic hit, we had to pivot out of the reserves because the reserves shut down due to the pandemic. So then we started a division called Zen Den, which is the backyard offices.
I've always worked from home, but during the pandemic, it just became really obvious that just with the kids home more often, and my husband's now working from home, I just needed a bit of separation and some space. And I also actually felt that once COVID wraps up, hopefully it'll eventually wrap up, and we'll have can act like a secondary sort of bedroom for guests.
The range is probably somewhere around 6,000 to about 13,000, 14,000. You have to check your municipality to find the correct size that you can use without a permit. But most of the sizes are about 100 to 104 square feet. We think it would be a very good idea, this type of a system for homeless shelters, temporary homeless shelters, that they can be assembled quite quickly when the weather turns. And then when the weather gets better, they can take it apart and stored flat against in any municipality yard, not taking up too much space. We believe that there is a good market there for these items.
I would love a cute little shed like that in my backyard.
Not bad. Sort of a way to try to separate the home office from the real office. I'm getting tired of my kitchen counter and the dining room table, but I'm moving back and forth just for some.
You got to mix it
variety.
up.
Yeah, exactly.
Can always take a few steps into the living room, head to the backyard, do what you got to do. Okay, a reminder, you can also watch this newscast live on CBC Gem.
CBC Vancouver is also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.
Well, the rollout is ramping up and the hesitancy is dropping. After the break, we look at why more people say they'll now get the COVID-19 shot.
And at 6:18, thanks for watching us online during our commercial-free live stream tonight. Well, plenty of people look forward to heading to a lake in the summer, but a group in Whitehorse is doing that every week, even in the middle of winter.
Spending just a few minutes swimming in the icy waters. They even have themes. Last week, it was a Mardi Gras beach party and soak. The CBC's Chris McIntyre went to check it out.
We are going to enjoy the I would say, the lake and the snow like if you were on the sand and in the south.
As temperatures around the Yukon warm up, you'll catch Yukoners out and about enjoying their favorite outdoor activities. At Chatburn Lake in Whitehorse, a brave bunch of people have gathered to soak in the sun and jump in the lake. The Yukon ice water swimmers have been doing this a few times a week since November. Every Sunday, anybody can join in. Believe it or not, they say the plunge is worth it.
After doing this soak, we feel so physically and even, I would say, mentally, we feel very good. It's for not only for the day, but for the next days. It's a kind of a reset.
This is Michael Vernon's second plunge. He had his first last week. It felt so good, he wanted to do it again.
My mind was quieter and more peaceful for the rest of the week, and so today I'm kind of interested to see if I can replicate that.
He lasted about 3 minutes this time. He's already feeling a similar effect to the last time he took a swim.
I mean, it starts a little bit with the focus on the breath when you're in the water, and then definitely when I'm a little bit warmed up, I'll start to feel that high a little bit more, I hope.
Jumping into a frozen lake might not be everybody's idea of a good time, but everyone here says it's a perfect way to spend a sunny Sunday. Whether they watched on the sidelines or jumped in the lake, everybody left with a smile frozen on their face. Chris McIntyre, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Yeah.
Fun for some, no thank you.
Well, right. Knowing your low temperature threshold, that's probably not where we'd find you.
Would you do it?
No. But I understand why it's different. Anything to get into the lake, right?
For sure, yeah.
There you go. Okay, back in just a couple of seconds. More on the vaccine rollout across Canada. Stay with us. Until then, enjoy this shot of the North Shore Mountains live. With 2 million doses set to arrive in Canada within weeks, the Prime Minister and top health leaders are praising the ramped-up rollout of COVID-19 vaccines.
And as David Cochrane reports, officials are also saying that vaccine hesitancy is diminishing.
As a grim winter turns to a hopeful spring, Canada's vaccine supply is on the rise.
Last week, we received almost 1 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines. This week, we're getting another 1 million.
The early trickle of doses is becoming a stream as Pfizer in particular has opened the taps. Canada is now on track for 8 million doses from all sources by the end of March and taking off from there.
What we're seeing is that more and more people in Canada are saying they want to get the vaccine.
That is a key point. Getting the doses is one challenge, getting them into arms is another. Vaccine hesitancy is a significant challenge public health officials need to overcome.
I do think that there's an actual increase in the number of people who want to get vaccinated right away. There are some who still want to wait a bit, and there's questions. We have to be able to answer those questions.
Tam hopes the positive impact of Canada's limited vaccinations to date will convince others who may have doubts. Outbreaks in long-term care have been greatly reduced. Seniors over 80 have seen their infection rates plummet. Vaccine hesitancy isn't a major issue with the current supply, but it will become a challenge as the country pushes for herd immunity. By then, Tam hopes the benefits will be even more clear and any lingering doubts about safety or effectiveness will be put to rest. David Cochrane, CBC News, Ottawa.
Some staff and board members of an Ottawa-based mental health charity are quitting the organization. They believe the woman behind it is operating under an alias.
Now they say their demands to be removed from the charity's website are being ignored. And as Jennifer Chevalier reports, they're being threatened with legal action for trying to warn others.
I'm here to present because of an urgent and immediate need.
With her camera off, a woman identifying herself as Maxine Aduela pitches her charity, the National Collaboration for Youth Mental Health, to the Ottawa Public School Board. The charity organizes events to support Black and Indigenous youth mental health and claims to have blue-chip sponsors and celebrity backing. Kirsten Dumont worked there for several weeks but never met Adwella in person. Now she believes Adwella is in fact Althea Reyes, a former beauty queen with a criminal past who's launched at least 20 civil lawsuits spanning decades. In 2017, an Ontario court deemed Reyes a vexatious litigant, meaning she's banned from suing any more people without the court's approval. In one recent lawsuit launched under Adwella's name, a Toronto judge concluded she and Reyes are the same person.
It's been very stressful to know that I've been lied to.
Dumont quit the charity and told others about Reyes. She was immediately threatened with a lawsuit.
It just became too much for me, and eventually I did break out into tears and I just couldn't stop crying.
The organization was registered as a charity last year, and since then it's pitched its services to Ottawa schools, received corporate funding, and had Sophie Gregoire Trudeau record and send it a short video message.
And first of all, congratulations to the class of 2020.
There are prominent names listed as directors of the charity, but a few told CBC News they never agreed to join the board. Others have backed out, but their names are still featured on the website. This 18-year-old student says she felt harassed after pulling out of a speaking engagement with the organization.
There was intimidating language used in allusion to knowing my address, requesting to come meet me in person.
She says the charity is hurting the very people it claims to support.
The fact that all of this is happening under the guise of youth mental health, especially for BIPOC youth, and we're the ones being harmed the most in this scenario, it is extremely damaging.
The National Collaboration for Youth Mental Health denies threatening anyone or having anything to do with Althea Reyes. It says Adwella is a separate person with, quote, 3 pieces of government-issued ID. Jennifer Chevalier, CBC News, Ottawa.
The number of migrant children heading to the U.S.-Mexico border has soared since President Joe Biden took office.
This appears to be linked to Biden's campaign promising of fixing the border system that he previously called inhumane.
As Lindsay Duncombe reports tonight, the Republican Party is calling the situation now a border crisis.
Reuters is reporting that in the month of February, there were 100,000 migrants detained at the U.S.-Mexico border. That would be the highest number since June 2019, when there was a surge at the border. And one of the things that's happening is the people crossing the border are unaccompanied minors, children. And that is a place where the Biden policies differ from what we saw in the Trump era. The Biden administration is allowing unaccompanied minors to cross into the United States, to be detained at expanded facilities, and then to be united with sponsors in the U.S. while they wait for their court dates. When it comes to adults, the situation hasn't necessarily changed that much, largely because of the coronavirus. Most of those people are still being held at the border with Mexico. The Republicans are very much saying that this is in line of exactly what they did not want to see from a Democratic government, a government that they accuse of having open borders and not allowing immigration to take place through an orderly process, not allowing people who have waited their turn to the United States to go through the legal process to be able to live and work in the U.S.
The way it translates is come to America, we'll let you in, we'll put you on a bus wherever you want to go, and we'll pay for everything. I mean, this is a border crisis. This is the Biden border crisis.
The bottom line is this is a complicated situation. It is getting worse, and it is going to take time for it to be resolved in whatever way it can. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
A bombshell interview, the Governor General's resignation. Just ahead, why some are questioning the monarchy's future role in our country.
CBC Primetime News with Peter Mansbridge and and Pamela Wallen.
Good evening. Sue Rodriguez has lost another battle in the fight of her life, the fight for the right to die. Rodriguez is terminally ill with ALS, which you might know as Lou Gehrig's disease. She is suffering and she wants a doctor to help her commit suicide.
But that is against the law, so Rodriguez has waged a very public campaign to get the law changed. She went to the House of Commons and she went to court. The first time around, she lost her case, so she tried the British Columbia Court of Appeal, but today she lost again. The story from the CBC's Jerry Thompson.
By the time Sue Rodriguez arrived at a Victoria hotel for a press conference, news of the court's decision had begun to sink in. She put the best face on what must have been a crushing disappointment.
Obviously, I have a lot of mixed emotion today.
Her lawyer, Chris Considine, tried to summarize why the appeal court judges ruled 2-1 against her.
In essence, as you all know, the British Columbia Court of Appeal held on a 2-1 decision that our appeal was not to be successful. In essence, the two learned judges who ruled against us were of the opinion that this is a matter which ought to be decided by Parliament.
In a split decision, Chief Justice Alan McEachran ruled in favor of Rodriguez. He wrote that any law which imposes an indeterminate period of senseless physical and psychological suffering upon someone who is shortly to die anyway cannot conform with any principle of fundamental justice. But Madam Justice Patricia Proudfoot wrote, "The broad religious, ethical, moral, and social issues implicit in the merits of this case are not suited to resolution by a court." Even though the BC Court of Appeal has said no to doctor-assisted suicide, a local doctor has agreed to help Sue Rodriguez anyway.
Fortunately, Sue has recently met a compassionate and dedicated British Columbia doctor who has indicated that while he, of course, as we fervently hopes that the appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada will be successful, or that Parliament will act, that he is prepared to assist Sue Rodriguez in her quest.
I think by the end of the day, I will be comforted knowing that.
For the time being, the doctor's name has not been revealed, but Rodriguez and her lawyer have decided to file an appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada.
I should try not to root on it if I were you. It's surprising how we can come to accept things.
Ironically, only a few days ago, Rodriguez watched the rehearsal of a stage play called Whose Life Is It Anyway? A benefit performance being staged later this week to help raise money for her legal expenses. The worry here is that Sue Rodriguez may not live long enough to hear the Supreme Court's decision. Jerry Thompson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Endless busy signal, dropped calls, jammed lines.
Far fewer vaccination appointments by any measure compared to the other health authorities. Vancouver Coastal is on the defensive tonight, explaining why its call centers were overwhelmed.
As Greg Rasmussen reports, the Premier called it a bad day.
Let's give this a shot.
250 times and counting.
We are currently experiencing a high volume of calls and are unable to take your call at this time.
Adarita Guerrero is in her second day of nonstop dialing, trying to book a vaccine appointment for her 89-year-old father.
And I started calling 7 a.m. through to 7 p.m., close to 200 calls. Yeah.
After 50 more calls today, she has lots of questions.
After we've waited this long, and brilliant minds are working on this, why is this such a bumbling effort?
It wasn't just technical problems. There was simply insufficient staff, particularly in Vancouver Coastal Health, to meet the demand.
The BC government is blaming TELUS, the company contracted to handle the calls. In a statement, it said the provincial government and health authorities asked us to support them, and we have let them down. Alberta had jammed phone lines and website crashes when its booking system opened 2 weeks ago, and Manitoba has also had problems. Despite the system working in some of the province's 5 health districts, BC's opposition wanted to know how the government could fail in Vancouver.
We saw the second largest health authority in our province, which serves a quarter of our population, manage to register only 369 people.
I mean, you can blame whoever you want to blame, quite frankly. We had a bad day yesterday.
Despite promises of a fix,
Thank you for calling the Vancouver.
problems remain.
Are you going to give up?
No, I'm not. I can't give up. No, I'll keep trying. Well, I'm thinking for my mom now.
Hoping to get through tomorrow. Greg Rasmussen, CBC News, Vancouver.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's bombshell interview with Oprah Winfrey continues to get reaction across the world.
And now Buckingham Palace has given its first official response to the allegations. Renee Filipponi takes us through how it's being received.
How many grandchildren have you got?
At a vaccine clinic set up in a predominantly black church, Prince Charles ignored the media.
Sir, can I ask, what did you think of the interview?
It was his first official outing since damaging accusations of racism were leveled at his family from within it.
There's a conversation with you,
with Harry,
about how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
The revelations from the interview have been reverberating for days now, pushing the firm into crisis mode, waiting to respond until the interview aired in the UK.
The statement from the palace today was short, reading that the royal family was saddened to learn the full extent of how challenging it's been for the couple, that the issues of race are concerning, and while some recollections may vary, they are taken seriously and will be addressed privately by the family.
It's not weighty enough to fully respond to what Harry and Meghan said.
This author says the statement doesn't go far enough.
The monarchy don't have the know-how of how to deal with such issues in today's society. It's a different world right now, and their traditional ways aren't cutting it.
The tabloid press, which has been a focal point of anger for the couple, issued its own statement in a stark denial.
The accusation that this was caused by sections of the British media who are racist, I'm afraid is just not true.
I'm sorry, I don't believe a word she says, Meghan Markle.
ITV host Piers Morgan, now disdainful of former friend Meghan, even questioned whether she really had suicidal thoughts.
Okay, I'm done with this. No.
Challenged by his colleagues, he walked off set today. This afternoon, it was announced he is leaving Good Morning Britain. Though causing chaos in the UK, the couple is at a distance from it all, living in the US with their growing family. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
In the wake of Harry and Meghan's bombshell interview with Oprah and Governor General Julie Payette's resignation over bullying allegations, some Canadians are questioning the monarchy's role in Canada. To that end, a recent poll showed the number of Canadians wanting to drop the monarchy has hit a 12-year high. Shachi Kurl is the president of the Angus Reid Institute, and she joins us now. So, Shachi, how are Canadians feeling about the monarchy at this point?
So even before Sunday night's interview, Canadians were already and have progressively been expressing more cynicism towards, more standoffishness towards the continuation of Canada as a constitutional monarchy. So we're now seeing fewer than 1/3 of Canadians say that Canada should continue with the monarchy for generations to come. You've also got only 50%, just half of Canadians who say they support the Queen Elizabeth II, continuing as head of state. And I think what's really important to consider through all of this is think about a generation ago. Think about 40 or 50 years ago, or to our parents' or grandparents' time. You know, the First World War, the rallying cry for Canadians was for king and country. We're a long way removed from that. And as we look further out on the horizon, you really only see the trend likely continuing in one direction.
So do you think we'll look back at the Meghan and Harry interview and perhaps see it as a tipping point?
I mean, it's hard to say that definitively, but one thinks about the famous Panorama interview with Diana and how that really did seal the fate, public opinion-wise, of Prince Charles, who is now the monarch in waiting. He's next in line, and that does present both a PR problem for the royal family, but again, The real challenge here is that necessity from a constitutional standpoint. Like, what are they for? The Harry and Meghan interview, I mean, notwithstanding the cheap thrills that it brings with pandemic life, certainly doesn't help any of the messages or the narratives that the royal family might wish to make to Canadians, like, hey, we're still useful and we're still good for something and we still play a positive role in your lives as Canadians. I think for those who watched it, or frankly, who haven't been able to avoid hearing news coverage from it, they're probably sitting back and going, maybe not.
Of course, the Queen is 94, making her the oldest monarch to have reigned in Britain. Could her eventual passing be perhaps time for change here in Canada?
Will it prompt a reckoning when she eventually leaves this earthly realm? Yes, most likely. But of course, the other side to that is, if not the royals, then what? And as much as Canadians are expressing that they don't feel the warm and fuzzies about the royal family or the relevance of the monarchy, they're also equally allergic to constitutional debate or change.
Well, we will leave it at that for now. Shachi, thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Metro Vancouver isn't the only place seeing skyrocketing home prices. Coming up, why the market is changing in small communities too.
Just coming up on 6:41, a live look at downtown Vancouver tonight. A few spotty showers, as Nick likes to say, around on the south coast today. How's the rest of the week shaping up? Well, looks like there might be some sun in the forecast. We'll have that next.
My name is Jean Morley McLean. I'm 96 now. We weren't allowed to join until we were 18, so I joined at that age in Toronto. Well, I ended up being a cook. I didn't sign up to be a cook because I had enough of that at home. I really enjoyed it. You didn't mind cooking and things, you know. You knew it was something that had to be done.
The Legion's had a program of visiting widows of veterans every Christmas, and Jean had mentioned that she wasn't allowed to join the Legion. The Legion in 45 didn't really want women as members, but they could cook suppers and everything else in the ladies' auxiliary.
We wouldn't have the same activities. We more or less helped with the Legion for things that they were doing, you know.
We discussed it at the executive level and come up, well, it's a little late, 76 years later, but let's make her an enduring member, which means that she'll be a member forever.
I never really expected to be able to get into the Legion, and I just wish it might have been sooner when I was more able to do things, but it was quite an honor, really, you know.
I would just urge all Legions to look through the books and see who we've provided a disservice over the years by not recognizing them, and reach out to them and get them registered.
Red Deer's first ever Women's March was memorable, and it was just the first step for the two women who organized it.
And what we did last year at the Women's March, it was really cold because it's Alberta, is that we tried to present various stories. So we had women from the Syrian community, we had trans women, we had women-led organizations, we had women to talk about homelessness in central Alberta.
Due to COVID-19, there was no march this year, but the founders of Ubuntu, an organization dedicated to mobilizing equitable participation for all Central Albertans, are helping youth leaders take the action online.
COVID has changed a lot. We're absolutely staying with the message. We are tweaking it to the online virtual platform now.
They are also working on Ubuntu's biggest project to date, a collection of stories from women identifying people.
So the Central Alberta 40 Collective Project is a project that we imagine to change the perspective of what it means to be from Central Alberta. When the question is asked, where are you from? And the answer is Central Alberta, people like me don't always come to mind. I am not the person that people usually imagine as being from Central Alberta, although this has been home for the past 14 years.
Datus and Khan are hoping to change the way people perceive feminism in Red Deer. And for them, supporting equality through an intersectional lens isn't a once-a-year activity. It's the work they are doing here daily. Heather Marcoux, CBC News, Red Deer.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Gloria Makarenko returns as host of West Coast Leaf's annual fundraiser, the virtual Equality Breakfast for Dinner. Get your tickets today at westcoastleaf.org. And do you have questions about the vaccine? Tune into CBC TV and radio on March 10th at 7 p.m. for our town hall, Our Shot, Vaccinating BC. Get all the details at cbc.ca/ourshot.
A CBC News investigation has discovered the bankruptcy of a contractor means St. John's Fire Department can no longer perform helicopter rescues.
As Rob Antle explains, it means the team can't reach someone who's stranded on the rugged coastal terrain around the city.
Help called in from above after a man seriously injured his leg while fishing from the rocks. Unable to make the 20-minute walk back to safety, the terrain too tangly for rescuers to carry him out. So instead, St. John's regional firefighters plucked him from the ground and delivered him by air, dropping him here, where paramedics were waiting to take him to hospital. A type of rescue no longer possible in the area around St. John's. That service now grounded.
As of last summer now, we were on standby, I guess, in a holding pattern to see if this service is going to be provided once again.
The rescue team relies on helicopters contracted by the province to do work like this, typically once or twice a year. Last spring, the company that provided the service went bankrupt. The province did find a replacement, but the new helicopters don't have the capacity to do this type of rescue work, leaving the fate of the service up in the air. The province now says it expects that the necessary equipment will be in service this spring, but wouldn't make anyone available to clarify details of what's going on.
I would like to understand what their long-term plan is for this type of rescue situations and recoveries, whereby helicopters are necessary and fixed-wing aircraft cannot do it.
The current situation means options are limited. Military search and rescue helicopters can also be called in to provide assistance if they are available. Though the team isn't called into service that often, Smith says it's important when needed, something he knows firsthand. He's been part of the team for 17 years, pictured here making a cliff rescue in 2009.
We want people out into the country. We want people out experiencing what Newfoundland has to offer, but at the same token, most of the Northeast Avalon Peninsula are full of high cliffs edges and very rough terrain and some dangerous areas. And it's nice and comforting to know, I would imagine, that there are protection, there are rescue services in place should something go astray.
Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, we've certainly seen it happening here. Many residents feeling priced out of their own Metro Vancouver communities, but it's also happening in smaller cities like Windsor, Ontario.
Whether it's pent-up demand, low mortgage rates, or buyers outside the community, the market is changing. And as Katerina Georgieva explains, locals are feeling the impact.
Windsor's got a reputation for being affordable, but how affordable is it? Windsor prices are skyrocketing, with average prices over the last couple months about 30% higher than same time last year.
I'm probably never going to own a home unless the market crashes.
Meet Elizabeth Ward. She's 28, and she and her partner have a joint income of about $60,000. A couple years ago, they got pre-approved for about $200,000. But with bids coming in more than $100,000 over asking, they couldn't compete and quickly gave up.
When I hear that houses are affordable in Windsor, I hear it's affordable to the people with more money who live outside of Windsor, not affordable for the people who live here. It's affordable for those selling, not affordable for those buying.
In January, out of 437 homes sold that month, just 15% of them sold for less than $300,000.
The $40,000 income person now is really giving up
on purchasing a home here unless they have a co-signer or more of a down payment.
The market is exploding.
This broker of record says some houses are going for $100,000 or even more than $200,000 over asking. And anecdotally, she says most buyers are from out of town who might have an economic advantage. Chen says some young professionals in Windsor are giving up, but she says it's still possible to buy if you lower your expectations, which some struggle to do.
They were like, Maggie, my parents told us that, with $450,000, you should be able to buy 1,500 square feet, race ranch, single family in South Windsor. I was like, yes, but maybe 5 years ago.
For Ward, she's keeping an eye on the market, but it's feeling hopeless.
Very discouraging. Like I get very upset and overwhelmed by it pretty often.
She's just hoping for the bubble to burst, but Chen doesn't see that happening anytime soon.
Absolutely not. We are still catching up.
Leaving some worried that if they don't get in now, they might miss the boat altogether. Katerina Georgieva, CBC News, Windsor.
Johanna Wagstaff is on assignment. Nick Czernkovich is here with the forecast. And Nick, I feel like we're going to have sunshine throughout the week, and then Mike's going to be disappointed, as he always is, with the weekend forecast. Is that right?
I think maybe today I can sort of please both of you with this forecast. It looks like the weather's actually being pushed toward the end of the weekend, so perhaps we'll have at least Saturday, maybe even part of Sunday with some good weather. But definitely this week, we're looking at good weather across actually most of BC, to be honest with you. And that because of high pressure that's in place. So I think there is some weather for everybody here in the 5-day forecast. Right now, we're still dealing with some light isolated showers across the region. Generally clearing sky cover as we head through tonight, though, and that will lead to some fog patches in areas as we head through the morning hours tomorrow. As you take a look at this forecast here, you notice how the clouds sort of start to spread apart. This is indicative of sort of more stable air that's moving in. And as it does, we're looking at generally clear skies, but that's also why we're expecting to see some fog for the morning hours. As we head through tomorrow afternoon, some light mixed precipitation in the higher elevations, especially as you get out toward Hope, but otherwise should stay dry around the Vancouver area. Maybe a few spotty showers down around Victoria as well. Thursday looks good for everybody, though. Lots in the way of sunshine again. And then as we head through Friday, initially it looked like this system would push through Friday night, but actually the high pressure is staying in place for longer, which means Friday night into Saturday still looks pretty good. And latest forecast runs even pushing this thing closer to Sunday afternoon or evening. So that being said, I think we're not going to see a breakdown in our weather pattern till we get through likely Sunday. The exact timing of it yet to be determined. I will say this, though. Following Sunday, there is a shift in the weather pattern, and we're going to see every couple of days a few rounds of rainfall coming through. So next week looks to be a little bit more wet, a little bit more windy as well than what we're seeing this week. Temperature-wise, we're sitting at 7 degrees right now in Vancouver. Earlier today at 11 degrees. That's 1 or 2 degrees above the seasonal mark. There's a look at your forecast for tomorrow. Generally good sunshine there. We'll see some cloud cover, though, moving through the region, and you can see that out toward Abbotsford and Hope as well. But I've kept it dry in Vancouver for the forecast. Here's a look at your 5-day. Lots of sunshine. Certainly Thursday, lots of sunshine. Friday, sunny. Some increase in cloud cover as we head into the weekend. That one there for Mike there. I think I'm keeping it dry on Saturday. Sunday, all bets are off at this point. But maybe
right.
one day at least.
There you go. We'll take it. Thanks, Nick.
You bet.
Well, getting outside more often is becoming more important than ever. Up next, we check in with a group of skateboarders who are finding out about the mental health benefits of popping a wheelie.
I understand that need to just see yourself in images. I went to Walmart and I was looking for a doll, and they were just all white dolls and one black doll. I didn't feel that it was fair to go into a Canadian grocery store and not have a product for the rest of us. There's always been an issue when it comes to representation in cartoons, movies, books. I feel like we're now at a time where we can do something about it. Especially with social media, we now have the power to actually speak out. Most of my products are actually from Europe and other parts of the world. I did find a good doll in South Africa. It cost me $150 to ship it from Africa to here. It's so beautiful. There's no doll made like it because it has textured hair. And it's my niece's favorite doll, and it's the one that looks the most like her. Canada needs to include everybody because we already include everybody when they come over. But now what we sell, what they see, what they read about, it now has to include even the names of people. These are now becoming regular Canadian names. I come from a royal warrior class as a Zimbabwean, and I want to shake this world just to bring toys for my niece, but not just my niece, but all children of Canada.
You have questions about the vaccine, and we want to hear from you. Join us for a very special CBC British Columbia Town Hall, Our Shot, Vaccinating BC, on March 10th at 7 p.m. Well, the promise of warmer weather has a lot of people dreaming about heading back outdoors more often.
Yes, that includes a group of skateboarders in Winnipeg who talk about the sport's mental benefits as well as the physical ones.
It's honestly like coming back to life after a long winter, especially with the restrictions. It just feels like pure freedom. It's pretty much like the best therapy that money could buy, but it's totally free.
Today we're trying to speed up the thawing process of the skate park, do a bit of ice chipping and clear things out, and yeah, socialize a little bit, social distance, but yeah, just nice to be out enjoying the weather again.
This is my first day out skating, you know, and it feels good to be back, honestly. I'm kind of rusty, just kind of warming up, just kind of getting all my flip tricks back, that's about it, but everything's kind of still there, but yeah, pretty rusty.
To make it easier to get through these COVID days, you should, do your best to maintain your wellness, make sure you're, getting outside, exercising, having fun, socializing, that kind of stuff. It makes a big difference on your physical health and mental health.
How's it feel to be back?
So good. I say reconnect with yourself, reconnect with nature, reconnect with your friends in any way that's safe to do so. Just feeling the sun on your skin is like the biggest boost that I could ask for.
Go and enjoy what you love most, honestly. And if it's hanging out with people, go hang out with the people that you love most. Spend time with family. Do whatever you love, especially if you love skateboarding. Don't matter. Do whatever you love most.
Mike, you're a secret pro skateboarder, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, throw on the kicks and get out there. Is that what you call it, the kicks?
I was just going to say, is that what you call it?
Those shoes, I guess? Yeah, I don't know.
The skate shoes.
And, of course, Winnipeg, you have to clear the snow off the skate park before you can.
Well, and they were all in T-shirts, so work up a good sweat.
It did. It looked nice. Yeah.
That's it for our program tonight. You can watch our newscasts online anytime, cbc.ca/BC.
Don't forget about the town hall tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Our next local news right here at 11 after the National with Dan Burrett. Have a great night.
Good night.